Good afternoon, my friends. I know there's been a hiatus since I've released any videos. I had to have some medical things done. Nothing serious, don't worry. But it was a good time for me to take care of it. About a week ago, former President Trump released a statement saying that on abortion, and his main point was that abortion law should be made by the states, and the federal government shouldn't do that. Now, one can state that he had a pragmatic reason for making the statement because he didn't want that issue to become a part of his campaign or the presidential campaign. But if you look at it from a legal point of view, federal restrictions on abortion or federal lawmaking on abortion is problematic, and it probably will not be supported, especially by the court in its current Supreme Court in its current configuration. And pointing out that fact, Justice Breyer's departure from the court was very significant in that, let's put it this way. The Supreme Court, especially the conservative wing, has been moving toward they call constructionist reading or of the Constitution. In other words, look at the words and figure out from the words as they were originally in what they meant at the time that the Constitution or the amendment was enacted, and use that to decide what that part of the Constitution really means. Justice Breyer's approach was, well, look at the purpose and let's figure out what the results would be. So he was very much the more like the living law, that the Constitution is a living document and we have to interpret it the way we want to, which to me is a form of tyranny. And the reason why we have a written Constitution is that it's there. It's something we decided on at a point in time in our nation's history. And for us to change that is not just according to the whims of a judge, but according to the will of the American people. If we don't agree with what the Constitution says, we should enact a constitutional amendment. So, but here, let me go into the reasons why Congress is not the appropriate body to set a national abortion standard. The primary, remember that we have a limited government. Our federal government has only the powers granted to it by the Constitution, all other powers being reserved to the states. And so in order for Congress to pass a law, it has to find authority to do so in the Constitution. And the primary one which the Congress relies upon is called the Commerce Clause. You've probably heard this. What's commerce? Well, the Commerce Clause says that Congress has the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with Indian tribes. Well, what does that give you the power to do? For example, there's three broad categories. One is that Congress has the right to make laws regarding the channels of interstate commerce, like highways, railroads, navigable waterways, airspace, and the movement of goods across state lines through those channels, right? That's an interstate activity. Second, there's something called the instrumentalities of interstate commerce. And this would be things that are commonly transported by interstate commerce. And the third one is activities that substantially affect interstate commerce. Now, it's clear that Abortion is not one or the other. It's one of the first two. It's not a highway, and is not something that's transported on a highway. But is the provision of abortion something which substantially affects interstate commerce? Well, I think it's called the Granger case. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I'll try to look that up. Basically, it was if you're a wheat farmer and you sell wheat, even though you sell it to someone down the street, that affects interstate commerce because you're affecting the price of wheat. Now, I think that's arguable, and there's some people that don't agree with it, but that's what the law is. So that's how Congress can make laws regarding wheat production. They can have national laws regarding agricultural products. How can that apply to abortion? Well, with this third part of the Commerce Clause, something that substantially affects interstate commerce, well, number one, these are the ways in which the Supreme Court has deemed something to be under Congress's Commerce Clause jurisdiction in the third clause. One is the activity economic in nature, and I think it's probably not correct that abortion is economic in nature. It's a medical procedure. Does the statute contain an express jurisdictional element linking this activity to interstate commerce? Okay, so that would be, they would have to have, if they passed a law, they had to explain why the restrictions on abortion, wherever they were applied, had some tie to interstate commerce. And just because they mouth the words doesn't mean it's going to stand. So that's kind of doubtful. And there's another leg which says, well, if there's express congressional findings that link the provision of these services to interstate commerce, then that would be okay. That's how they've so far, although it hasn't been tested by the Supreme Court, the FACE Act, that's the law against demonstrating in front of an abortion facility or a pro-life facility, was deemed to be constitutional. The court that held that, the Seventh Circuit, said that, well, abortion clinics, they buy medicines from and other products across state lines. If you go that route, then you could say just about any activity can be regulated by Congress, because every activity, if your activity involves giving someone a Tylenol pill, well, where'd you get that pill, a Tylenol? If you mount tires on a car, well, you bought that tire from another state, so we should be able to have the federal government regulate tire changing shops. So when you look at it, and especially with the current court, with some of the justices being a little wary of government powers, federal government powers, it looks like if Congress did pass a federal abortion statute, it would, of course, be challenged, and that challenge probably would be successful. I think this is important for us as lights just went out in the room and go off automatically. As people that believe in the sanctity of human life, we have to do what we can to preserve the lives of these innocent people. And as I've stated before, there is really no substantive difference between a baby that's in the 7th or 8th month of pregnancy and a newborn baby. They have the same ability. Yes, a baby born prematurely needs special help, but a baby born normally needs help. It's not going to survive on its own. And we have to take a pragmatic approach. The most important thing is we have to educate the public and do a better job of educating the public about abortion, and especially the fact that late-term abortions, although they're said to be rare, are something that we need to eliminate, except for very rare cases. And as it says, they say it's extremely rare. It's 1% of abortions. But when you look at the total number of abortions, that works out to close to 10,000 a year, and that's more than gun homicides. Well, no one is saying we don't need to worry about gun homicides because they're extremely rare. It's a human life, and we can and should do something. Although I don't think that gun control is the way. I think there's other ways to do it. For example, enforcing the laws. But I think the more important thing is that we'll look at this article in the Atlantic. It's behind a paywall, but you can read about it. And this abortion doctor, who's the go-to guy, if you read the article, he says that this idea that most late-term abortions are done out of medical necessity is nonsense. It's mostly because, or from fetal deformity. It's nonsense most of the time. It's just people delayed. They stalled and they delayed, and it's whatever that kind of it may be difficult for the person, but human life is sacred, and it bears on us on who we are morally if we accept it. And polling shows that the vast majority of Americans are opposed to third trimester abortions. I think in California, it's 62% of Californians are opposed. So we need to point that out, and I think we need, although yes, it is an evil, we need to do it in a logical way. We need to go present this as no third-term abortions, except for very, very narrow exceptions. That is, if it's a balance between the baby's life and the life of the mother, I certainly can understand that. As the parent of 9 kids, I think you have to watch out for the mother. She's also a human being, and there is, these decisions are not easy, but we do have to have some clear-cut lines. Okay? Well, I hope that was informative to you, and thanks for watching. Goodbye.